The winter window has closed. It's time we rank every single Championship club's January transfer window. Let's go. There's only one place to start, and that's introducing our tier list. At the bottom, oh dear. It's an oh dear kind of transfer window. Above that, it just opened. Our middle tier, decent. It was a decent transfer window. Above that, proper business. This team did proper business in January. And our top tier, where only one club will sit, window winner. Let's begin with West Brom in alphabetical order, but the other way round. I think it was a really solid window for West Brom. I do. Even after losing Alex Palmer on deadline day, that is the only negative. If you look at the incomings, I've been really impressed. Armstrong and Lancashire boost that striker department massively. That area of the pitch looks so much stronger than before the window opened. A really nice use of the loan market there. Some really nice additions. If you look at the permanent signings, again, I don't know loads about them, but if you look at the age profile and the fees that they've spent on them, it's a nice profile. There's a really nice profile about them. They're young, they're hungry, there's a real ceiling to their game too. It's a sensible, strong strategy. And I come back to the fees. There's a real ambition there, around 7 million euros combined for both of those players. I think it's been good. I think it really has been good. If you look at the age profile too, you're looking at a 21-year-old, a 21-year-old, a 19-year-old. I know Armstrong is slightly older than that. But the permanent signings are really nice long-term look on the squad. Keeping Fellows as well is a bonus. He was linked to a move to Everton late on in the window. Really solid window, I think, West Brom, for all things considered. For that reason, I think West Brom have done some proper business. I don't think they're a window winner candidate, but I'd say it's been proper business for West Brom this January. Watford next, just really underwhelming, possibly just really bad. The squad is so light in areas, especially up top and in the creative positions. If you look at the squad depth in those areas, they're just massively, massively short. With injuries included too. I mean, Barr as an example is the striker. Beyond that, who is there? You've got probably two options that can play in those wide areas, and they play with two wingers or two number 10s behind the striker. You're just lacking, and they needed bodies, quality bodies ideally, but at least just players to fill in those gaps. They have not been supplied with them. The ownership have let down Tom cleverly. It's never a great sign when the morning after deadline day, you're looking around at the free agent market thinking, can we fill in those gaps with those players and players that couldn't get a move during the window? That's never a great indication you've had a good transfer window. Question marks once again over the ownership. You look at the three players that came in, so they're wide. It looks like a good loan option from Chelsea. But beyond that, you've got two players coming from Udinese. Clearly, ownership signings, not good. Really, really not good. And there's a lot of negativity around Watford. And a transfer window is a good opportunity to maybe silence that or bury it for a couple of weeks. But if anything, it's enhanced the negativity. Watford, for me, I'm sorry, it's come on this early. It's either it opened, but if we're being critically honest, it's an old dear for me. Swansea City, and I'm sorry, but we're going to have to continue with the negativity because their transfer window was beyond underwhelming and probably enhanced because of their current issues on the pitch. To say a club captain and not have a plan is just unforgivable. A loan replacement is just not an acceptable answer. The signings in isolation don't look too bad. Lewis O'Brien, for example, looks like a player that will do well for Swansea. He's done well in the Championship before. He's of a good age, and at this level, I'm sure he'll be absolutely fine. But it's still, that squad is lacking in quality and depth in key areas. And that is the bottom line. The word I'd use to describe this window is actually lazy, and it's a horrible, horrible word, but it's the truth. I look at it and I go, there's multiple gaps that remain an issue and needed filling in the window, and they needed a lot more. Matt Grimes' departure is massive. Beyond the fact he's the club captain, what he did for that team is a joke, and that team is going to be stretched in midfield without somebody like him. I don't like the window. Swansea fans, I can imagine, don't like the window. Really, really poor. Poorly organised, poorly executed. Sorry, it's another team in Old Dear. Sunderland are the next team we're going to chat about. This window, I think, was about retention as much as additions. Bellingham, Rigg, Sirkin, Hume, Watson, all staying are really, really important bonuses. Dan's and Lafille, I think, are going to add so much to that front line. Already Lafille is showing his quality. He looks like somebody who should not be playing in the Championship. And we knew that when he signed for Sunderland initially. But it's very, very true. He's already making an impact. Dan, I know, is coming with an injury, but we know he will make an impact when he is fully fit. Ultimately, that squad is stronger than before the window, and that's a really good indication as to whether a team has had a good window. They are stronger than they are before. We know how Sunderland operate. They're going to be sensible, but they're also going to be really ambitious. And there's a fine line between those two words. I think they have done that really, really well. If we're being picky, you could maybe look at some fullback depth, beyond Human Circle. I'm not hugely convinced on the options there. Maybe another wide option. Interesting to see if you think that if Dan's was coming in fully fit straight away, perhaps you'd add one on top of them as well. But it looks like a really savvy window for Sunderland. A really savvy window, a really good window. Players that needed a loan have got a loan, and I like it. I really, really do. Are they a candidate to win the window? Possibly. But it's proper business. It's definitely proper business. They're also a candidate for window winner. We'll come back to that later. I think a really pragmatic window for Stoke City. Nothing silly at all. All very sensible. No chaos. And at Stoke, I think sometimes that's best because in the past, they have been silly. They've made some radical decisions. This has been a really sensible, steady window. They'll look back on it and go, I think we did well in that January. And in the summer, we reassess that squad again. But don't do anything ridiculous and stupid in the middle of a season when you've got a really sensible manager that I think is going to be brilliant at Stoke. Replaced Cannon really well with Ali Al-Hamadi on loan from Ipswich, already making an impact there. Again, sensible. Record some inform options. Again, sensible. And they use the loan market really well by bringing in Josh Wilson-Esbrand, again, who already looks like a really good player. Quietly sensible and actually quietly underrated. People won't speak about Stoke because it's really easy to sort of look at that list of three players coming in, and a few outs there that don't make much of a difference and sort of go, yeah, it's decent, it's okay. But it's not. It's actually a really good window for Stoke and one they needed. They needed some stability and they've got that. So proper business for Stoke. Maybe underrated for a window winner. I don't really think so, but they're definitely proper business. Impressed by them. Sheffield Wednesday up next. The actual additions are really positive, and keeping Shay Charles is almost another signing too. You just feel they are still short in positions. Striker department especially. Some will look at it and go, it could have been much worse. Some will look at it and go, it feels like a big missed opportunity in a league position to give it a proper go. You've been let down again by Arona. I think there is truth in both of those things. But we've almost become frustratingly used to the fact that Sheffield Wednesday under Chansiri are not going to be extremely ambitious and give a transfer window a go. The players they brought in, I actually like. They're going to improve the squad. The squad is better. They've kept one of their, if not their best players. They've added some real quality. The squad is stronger, but is it enough for a genuine challenge on the top six? I'm not entirely sure. With Danny Rowe, you just never know. You just absolutely never know. At least they got some bodies in, and the bodies they got in, I think, will make them better. Sheffield Wednesday, I think it's decent. I'm not going to say it opened. It could have been much better. But we've almost got to take into consideration the fact this owner is not going to provide them a proper business window winner kind of transfer window in January especially. So in the context of that, it is decent. It could have been better, but decent is decent. Great insight. A really strong window for the Blades, so much stronger than before it opened. And again, that's a really good indication of where a transfer window is ranked. The squad is so much better. Most areas of the pitch have been strengthened with a really nice blend of experience and long-term additions to the makeup of the squad. Contractually has finally got some stability. Just remember when we were looking at Sheffield United's squad at the end of last season and the start of the summer, it was all over the shop. Players leaving, players with clearly a desire to leave, with contract situations all over the shop, the age being really old, clearly trying to reduce that, but being clever in doing so. The makeup and the build of this squad now looks so much better. There's so much quality. It's a lovely balance between players developing, growing for the long term. You've got players in their prime years, players that can bring in that experience too, been there and done it, played at the top level, played in the Championship. It looks so much better. So much better and a really great window. The backline needed work. It did. We did a video on the title race in Sheffield United. So short in those defensive areas. You brought in Rob Holding, Harry Clark, who can also play in that position too. The options up top look so much healthier. So much healthier. Tom Cannon joins the club. Diaz already making a real impact. Some really exciting young players too that you brought in on permanent signings that again are going to grow, are going to develop, may take time, but they're there now for the future and they're assets that Sheffield United can keep hold of and grow as well. No key departures too. For me, definitely a window winner candidate. We'll come back at the end and crown our window winner, but they definitely do have to go in that top tier because they have impressed me. They've been very, very good. I think a decent enough window for QPR. The squad is stronger than what it was at the start of January, and that's important because they've done slightly more. Perhaps they could have done. A striker was probably on the list, and that wasn't recruited. So a few concerns there. Keeping Dunn and Share have to be bonuses. That should be mentioned. If you look at the loan signings, Ronnie Edwards already making a brilliant impact. People saying that should be a permanent deal. Hopefully in the summer they can go on and do that. Won't be easy, depending on Southampton's situation. But a really good centre-back. We knew how good he was at Peterborough. He was one of the top performing centre-backs at that level for such a long time. The Premier League, too much of a jump. This level of the Championship will be absolutely fine for him. He's already showing his quality. He will be brilliant, and so far he has been. Not too much to know about Yang on loan from Tottenham. Young player. We know that Cifuentes is fantastic with developing young players. So that loan signing does make sense. Harvey Vale came in. He's injured for the season. So you sort of feel guilty including that. But he is someone that's come in. And maybe for next season, again, if you're looking long term and judging the window and what it could look like in a few years' time or even the start of next season, that definitely should be mentioned. No key departures, which is good. Like I said, they're done. Maybe unsettled after that Sheffield United debacle, but either way, staying at the club and Share also, I believe, signed a new contract recently too. So, all in all, QPR, I think it was decent. It didn't just open. I think it was decent. Could have been better, perhaps, but every window can be better. For the situation they currently find themselves in, they did some sensible, decent business. A solid window for Preston, a really solid window with defensive options now looking much healthier. That was the area that Paul Heckingbottom clearly wanted to address the most, and he's done that. A few concerns perhaps over the top end of the pitch. Does the squad have enough goals in it? Not entirely sure it does. Clearly quality, clearly players that can play there. Is there enough goals overall? Maybe not. That could be something they address in the summer rather than in January because clearly, defensively, they looked quite frail at times and they needed bodies and better options and better quality options in that position. And they've definitely done that. No key departures is always a real bonus. I think all in all for Preston, when you look at how you would rank their window, I think they've gone about it really sensibly. And in January, that's not always the worst thing to do. I'd say it's either proper business or decent. It's probably proper business. I'm feeling generous on this Tuesday morning. Let's say it's Preston in proper business. Pompey next. That squad has definitely been refreshed. Was it an exceptional window? Exceptional? Maybe not, but it was good. It's been refreshed. It's been a good window, I'd say. That's how I'd describe it. The backline needed additions, and it's definitely seen that. In the wide areas, I think they're probably still a player short. If you look at the incomings, Hayden Matthews looks like one for the future, but can impact that squad now. They've been looking at him for a long time. He's young, he's hungry. Look at the long term. I think when you look at Pompey's window, they've definitely looked at the long term nicely. You look at players like Waddingham has come in, of course, the Australian striker. You've got Hayden Matthews too, who's also come in to do that. I know the loan signings don't necessarily count to a long-term future, but you've got young players there looking to develop. Those two permanent signings are a really good example of that. That's something that, of course, they've highlighted and wanted to bring in. Perhaps a slightly more proven Championship attacker that could have played up front, or I think more specifically in the wide areas, would have taken this window to another level. I like the experience too, in the fact that Isaac Hayden, I think, is a really good signing. Rob Atkinson definitely adds a backline addition that will be handy, really, really handy. All in all, a good window. I don't think it's been anything mind-blowing, but it's been decent. Pretty decent for Pompey. That's how I'd look at it. Plymouth Argyle are the next team. The defence needed open heart surgery, and that area does look stronger. It does look stronger. Physically, it does look stronger. That whole squad, literally, it looks much improved. Really happy with what they've done at the back. Up top, still a few concerns. Has Whittaker's goals been replaced? Is there enough goals in that squad? That might be the letdown. There's got to be goal contributions from all over the pitch. But if you looked at prioritising an area and you look at Plymouth, bottom of the table, look like a really, really cut adrift kind of side in the Championship, highlighting one area is not a bad way of looking at the transfer window. You can't really get rid of everyone and start again. That isn't going to happen. So highlighting the area that you think you need to improve the most and really invest in that position isn't the worst idea whatsoever. I think they have done that. They've given themselves a chance. Is that chance going to be good enough? We'll have to wait and see. But they haven't given up on the season, and that's important. It's very easy for a side in that position to go, why waste that money now when in the Championship we might not be here next season? Let's wait for League One money to spend. They've given it a good go, and you can only ask for that, really. It's been decent. The only thing is the attacking options still, I think, are a little bit weak. Oxford United did our business early and felt comfortable on deadline day. That must be a first. A lovely blend of Championship experience, high-profile, data-driven signing from abroad as well in Ole Romani. Some good young options, some on a permanent deal, some on loan. The squad is much stronger. The squad is so much stronger. It's come out of the window in a really good place. That's always a fantastic indication when you're trying to rank a transfer window. Tom Bradshaw brings experience and still does bring quality. I like the use of the low market. That's Matos. He looks like a really handy player from Chelsea. Stanley Mills, one for the future perhaps, but again, a good signing who can make an impact now. Is another wide option we can use. Michael Hellick already looks like a real man mounted at the back. Again, it's nice to go into League One as a Championship club now and go, yeah, we'll take a good player from League One who's going to come in and make an impact. We needed to do that with the lack of defensive options at the time with injuries. But when you've got players like Moore and Nelson coming back, the squad will look stronger, and you've got some really difficult decisions to make. The fact you're also winning games on a fantastic unbeaten run as of recording this, that also makes it far easier and opens the pool up to players you're able to recruit. I really, really do like it. We've got players out on loan doing extremely well. Stefan Negru came back, has gone back to Salford. Jack Curry continues to do really well. Fringe players moving on. No, Carl Edwards, again, a really talented footballer, but can't stay fit and wasn't really not worth giving a new contract, but it was a very high-risk decision to do that when he can't really rely on him staying fit. Louis Sibley, again, getting him minutes on loan will be really important. Owen Dale with Goodwin too. It's a really sensible, strong window, and that's all you can ask. If we're being really picky, will Harris and Bradshaw be enough as our two only natural striker options? That could be the reason why they're not a candidate for window winner, Oxford. I think we have done proper business, though, and that's where I'm going to put us. Norwich City, a really tidy window. The model is young and hungry players. Ben Napper said that going into the transfer window. I think he's definitely aligned his words and his actions. And on face value, if you look at the business and look at the window, young and hungry is a really good way of describing it. Some really quite refreshing options. You look at the strength and depth now with no key departures too. I know there's a few Norwich fans that are waiting for the Turkish market to close with the idea of Borja Sainz could be on his way, and they've been subject to some key players going out to Turkey recently, in the summer in particular. Hopefully that doesn't happen again for Norwich City, so hold on maybe a couple more days. But if you look at what it looks like now at the end of this English transfer window, been very, very impressed. The one that stands out, of course, was late last night, Jacob Wright on loan with an obligation to buy, or an option to buy, I think it is, I can't remember. Jacob Wright, one of my favourite transfers of the window, always been so highly rated at Manchester City. He's a proper defensive midfielder, but also an extremely great ball-playing one. And you look at the way that Hoff wants to play, he aligns with that great. And it's just a great signing. A really promising transfer window, one that brings a great blend of all the things that was promised going into it. Norwich City, potentially a candidate for window winner. For me, it's top end proper business. Millwall, I think, have really strengthened the now and the long term, and that's a fantastic place to be when you're walking out of a January transfer window. They're walking out with a real swagger about them. Look at the age profile and look how many players are on permanent deal. The average age, I can tell you, of the new signings is 21, and that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, especially when you look at the fact that, of course, Esse was sold to Crystal Palace. You reinvested that money so well. I love the blend. I love the age profile. I like the way that you've looked at every single position and gone, we can make this better. I like the way you bought players too and got assets now. And that's a great, really, really great thing and doesn't get spoken about enough. We can sort of get tied down to the fact that he's a good player from such and such. He's of a good age on loan from such and such. But you've bought these players and now Millwall have got that long-term strategy and there's clearly a plan. And for a long time, they didn't feel like a plan, but there now certainly is. I like the way it was run, and January is a great way of doing that, and it's really nice to see that they're carrying on with that model. They kept Tanganga, another huge bonus. And like I said, they reinvested the SA money ambitiously. And you can't ask for much more than that. If you're going to sell a player, which we knew they were probably going to sell, being able to pump that back in with players that could then be reinvested again in the future and developed and make you better now and in the long term is all you can ask. They could be on course to sit in that window winner top tier category. I've been that impressed with Millwall. We'll come back to it. We'll put them in there. In fact, yeah, let's put them in there and we'll come back at the end and see where we look then. Middlesbrough next. The attacking options are now an absolute joke, aren't they? That's the headline. They are ridiculously good. Morgan Whittaker, Samuel Inning Jr. on loan from Aston Villa, Kelechi Iheanacho, the Iheanacho, only 28 years of age still, on loan from Sevilla. Just mind-blowing. I like the way they've stuck to their model. Investments into the younger players, a smart use of the loan market too. Ryan Giles, we know how important he was when he was at Middlesbrough last time under Michael Carrick. Like I said, Junior, Iheanacho, Travers as a goalkeeper is a really good signing from Bournemouth too. They've used those markets really well. A few minor concerns over the back line. I think a versatile option that could have played as a centre-back and also right-back. I mean, ideal world, right? Easier than done. Would have been brilliant. I know Matt Clark left the club. And you've got someone like Ayling still playing at right back. Still has a few concerns over that. Edmondson, maybe the jury's still out on him as well. Kept Hackney, which is great. Set to receive a huge sum for Latte Laugh soon too. A good window for Middlesbrough. A really good window. The only thing is maybe a few more defensive options or another versatile defensive option. But again, ideal world. Definitely proper business for Middlesbrough, I think. Luton Town, they've given it a bloody good go, haven't they? It took a while to get the wallet out, but they have definitely spent in the latter stages of the January transfer window, and they needed to. They're in desperate need to improve that squad and back new manager Matt Bloomfield. I think they've done that. They desperately needed some creation from central areas. Asgard and Ali provide that now and in the long term. They got their striker eventually, not the one they were looking at from Wickham. It wasn't Kone, it was Nordas, the lad from Denmark, but a really good profile, pedigree out in Denmark. So going to be interested to see what he can do. We know what Asar Jones can do at this level as well. We know what Josh Bowler can do at this level too. So I like what they've done. They've added some experience. They've added some really good players long-term, some players that can hit the ground running now. The only question mark would be, have they maybe done enough at the back? 2 centre-backs signed with one very short-term in Carl Naismith and one very, very long-term in Christ Makosso. So let's see what that looks like. I think there's been a really, really good improvement to their window strategy come the latter end of it because it looked really stale and really poor. They definitely have backed Matt Bloomfield. Have they backed him to the absolute maximum? They'll say they probably have. They've definitely given it a great go. Proper business for Luton, I think. Leeds United, this won't take long. No signings at all, but no significant departures as well, so that is important. Did they desperately need anything? Not really. Leeds United are in a pretty good space. That squad is absolutely ridiculous. Maybe a number 10, possibly. It's arguably the strongest squad in the league. It's much easier to strengthen weaker squads than the stronger squads. You would maybe say an understudy or some competition for the number 10 position. But other than that, they didn't need to do much. They didn't do anything in terms of ins and nothing significant in terms of outs. So not going to take long. For Leeds, it opened. It very literally just opened and it passed them by. Hull City, a really ambitious window, and that squad on paper now really shouldn't be near the bottom 3. Pretty much all positions have been strengthened. I really like the signing of Louis Barry. Of course, it's the go-to thing to say, but it's true. What he did at Stockport over the last couple of years is a joke. The fact he's come to Hull City definitely does show us how ambitious they've been and show what they've done in terms of a really clever window. A nice blend of experience. John Egan has come in. Again, he's 32, but he's definitely going to give a backbone to that Hull City side. And whether or not he plays every single game, you can't really beat someone that's been there and done it. That's almost priceless in the dressing room. Like they said, they've gone with older players. Amrabat's 37. He's still got something about him. You've also gone and spent some good money on Matt Side from Monaco, who I'm sure will come good. Use the low market really well. Joe Galhart, again, spent big on Carl Joseph. Again, he's a really good player doing well, or did well at Blackpool. He's earned himself a move. A big, strong, physical striker. Matt Crooks as well has been here and done it before. Again, brought him in permanently. Like I said, a really nice blend of experience. Players that have been here and done it, and also players that are young and can really hit the ground running. I like Hull City and what they've done. For that reason, it's definitely proper business. Well done, Hull. You've got a really good squad now, Ruben Sellers. A really good squad. Derby County, not great, is it? Not been great. The actual additions don't look bad. Let's start with the positives, because the actual additions on paper, again, I haven't watched a lot of players that have played for Viking, I'll be totally honest with you. But from what I've heard, they are good, strong defenders and strikers they've brought in. Very, very physical, very, very Paul Bourne and what he wants to do. They don't look bad at all. However, they needed a lot more options in other areas. At the top end of the pitch, they didn't get the attackers they wanted. They really didn't. And that isn't a good look. It really isn't a good look. I know Harrison Armstrong came in late on in the window and loan from Everton. It's a first loan. You never quite know what a first loan is going to look like. And like I said, Matt Clark as a centre-back, I think is a really good option for Derby. It's a good signing, it is. And the two players that play for Viking, I can't tell you I've watched them play ever before, but they've come with a really, really good pedigree about them out in Europe. They did sell Aaron Cash in, and have they reinvested that? Not really, not totally, and that's going to be the biggest frustration, a really big frustration, because the miss out on attacking targets, knowing you've sold your best player for over £10 million with add-ons, is not a great look, and it's going to rub people up the wrong way, especially when you know how bad they've been on the pitch recently as well. Like I said, I don't want to sit here and rinse the players they've signed, because the players they've signed are good. They are good players, but they needed more. And they've openly come out and said the attacking players that they wanted, they couldn't get over the line. It opened, or it's Old Dear. Purely based on what they need and where they are right now, it is Old Dear. They needed a bit more. They needed players in those forward areas. And it looks far worse when people know you've got money. Makes it hard to recruit, mind, but it's still not great. It's Old Dear. Coventry are the next team on the agenda. I think a really tidy window for Coventry. A really tidy window. One in, no significant departures, and a top addition too. Matt Grimes is a fantastic player. I went into detail on that departure when we spoke about Swansea earlier, but he is such a good player. And if that was their number one target, if that's the player they wanted, and that was one they set out to get in at the start of the window, and they've got him, they've definitely been extremely successful. No key departures, like I've already mentioned, is a great boost for Coventry. Maybe a few gaps of injuries creep in at the back, but on the whole, absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Good place on the pitch, tidy place off the pitch. For me, Coventry, they've done proper business. Cardiff City, I think a good window on the whole. I think a good, steady window. Nothing to write home about, but a really, really sensible window. That's the best way of describing it. Sorry, I was going to try and give you more there, but I couldn't. If you were a little bit picky, you'd say they're missing some experience. With, of course, Siopis leaving to Greece, going back to his native country, and you are losing somebody there who's 30 years of age and has been there quite a long time. So perhaps you're looking at experience. But also, Ricardo, it's important to mention that new deals for O'Dowda and Robinson are positive, and that doesn't get spoken about enough. Just because maybe there's 3 players named there that have come in the door, and actually at the look of them, 2 there look like really good players. It's actually like a really bold, strong, physical number 9. With Alves, another one to mention, a really exciting, creative player from Leicester City. It's a first loan, but you don't quite know what you're going to get with first loans. It could be amazing. It could be a really good, sensible pickup, and they've gone and done that. But again, signing players down to long-term contracts or longer-term contracts is great. And if that's done in January, that definitely does go towards the ranking. Cardiff, I think it's been proper business for them. Burnley next. I think if you look at the additions in isolation, I really like them. The one that stands out, obviously, is Marcus Edwards. The fact he's playing in the Championship is an absolute joke. What I think really interesting is the fact that Burnley in the last couple of weeks has been a real conversation about the fact that maybe they're not the most attacking side of the Championship. They've added some flair and some creativity to the squad in this window. Marcus Edwards, of course, the one that stands out. Bano, of course, from Ajax as well, has done that. The experience of Ashley Barnes and John Joe Shelvey, can they make a real impact? I'm not sure that's the point of them signing, to be honest. The biggest issue is the lack of a striker. I think that is maybe where Burnley fans feel a little bit let down, and the reason why they're probably not an 8, 9, 10 out of 10 window and more about a 6 or a 7. Maybe a 7 or an 8. Maybe, in that tier. They're not a top end window because of that. 2 number 9s have left the club, of course. Jerry Rodriguez being one of them's a Wrexham. Amazing how Wrexham can do that. And they haven't brought anyone in, and that is going to be a concern. I don't mind the players they've brought in. They could have done with the number 9. They really could have done. For that reason, I think it's either decent or proper business. I think it's decent. Actually, no, it's proper business. This on Marcus Edwards. It's proper business. They could have done slightly more in other areas, though. Bristol City next. This isn't going to take long. Good communication, interesting timing, but no signings at all. They may look back on this and go, missed opportunity perhaps. If you look how tight the top 6 race is right now, you could look back and go, could we have done a little bit more, and that could have propelled them. Looks like an expensive summer has let their January down. Mark Sykes on long-term contract, or a longer-term contract is a positive. Other than that, let's not spend too much time. They didn't sign a single player. No departures. They're key. It opened. And finally, Blackburn Rovers, a steady window, a mixture of profiles in all thirds of the pitch. Squad is stronger, definitely, coming out of the window. Dennis, the standout. They needed strikers. They've done that. Dennis is a really good option there. Is it a window of the long term, or for the long term? Maybe not so much. If you look at the additions and how long they are, a lot of short-term free contracts. Augustus probably is the only long-term signing there. A lot of loan signs. But beyond that, steady. I think it's been a decent window for Blackburn Rovers. Probably the best in quite a few January transfer windows of recent years. I think in conclusion, I'm going to go Sheffield United as our window winner. Let me know in the comments down below how you view it. I think Sheffield United just pipped Millwall to the window winner. But Millwall, they've done extremely well and they definitely deserve to be mentioned.